on a daily basis at Cafe, I run the kitchen, so that's from the beginning of the morning till late at night, take care of the whole staff, the team, the ordering, the produce coming in, developing the menus, cooking, executing the menus, all the way to saying hi to the guests and making sure that everything goes well. It's part coach, part orchestra conductor, part cook, part everything. When I was in high school, I think I had the same aspirations as most kids. It was either can I be a rock star, can I be a baseball player, can I be a basketball player. All the things that sort of had some sort of sense of celebrity to it were attractive. Certainly not schoolwork. That couldn't be that interesting. But then I was, at the same time, I was fascinated by science and how science worked. So I think probably I thought about being in science early on because I just liked the way things worked. I would look at everything in the world as, how does this work? How does that work? And I knew that out there were people that studied it and were doing research. So I think probably between sports and music, I had an inclination to science. I guess it was a long road to becoming a chef. When I was a kid, I loved to eat. So I thought, my mother always said he was a good kid, he loved to eat everything. But not only that, I think I was fascinated by how cooking worked. Like, how do you end up with something magical on the plate that came from the kitchen? I was always in the kitchen, wanted to sort of help out to see how those things sort of worked. And even as I went to school, that was a constant. So schools during the day and what's for dinner tonight. And I would always cook at home and sort of experiment around with it. And then later when I went to college and graduate school, I lived with some other students and I would do all the cooking and they all ate really well. So I think it was sort of a constant along the way that sort of married art and science together. It was just a passion since I was a kid, I guess. Even in the lower grades, I was interested in science. And then in high school, I was interested in science. And I was good at it, so that sort of helped. Then I went to college as an undergraduate, and I thought maybe I would think about medicine or dentistry or things that were in the sciences, but I was more interested in science and how science worked. And I was very interested in what was going on in those laboratories on the various floors of the science bin. They looked like they were doing some very serious, interesting things. So I got a job in one of the labs just to help out because, again, I wanted to find out how things work, kind of like the kitchen. How does it work? And then I thought, boy, I didn't want to do any more textbook things that were already written. I used to, with the answers in the back, I wanted to do more graduate research. So I went to graduate school in biochemistry and studied biochemistry. For me, it was the perfect science because it was right between biology and chemistry about how things kind of worked at the chemical level. I loved it. It was a great 5 years. My mother's question was, what are you going to do with that after you've got a PhD? What job are you going to get? Like mother sort of thing. And my father was like, oh, that's great. Do it. Just expand your horizons. If you really want to do something, you should go do it and seize the opportunities. That's really what I did. But I always figured that I could I loved to teach too, so I thought there could be university positions. But at the time, I just thought, I really want to do this. I was at the time in the late 70s inspired by some French chefs that seemed very smart and very articulate and doing very new things that seemed very akin to sort of science, that they were discovering things, and that sense of sort of discovery was very close to what happened in sort of science. And so it wasn't like they were just a bunch of cooks, so to speak. They were doing new things that sort of impacted society and how society works. So I guess that some of the mentorship of the food side came from that this looked like something that was they were like PhDs of food, sort of, So I think that's kind of was sort of attractive. I think when you look at cooking, it's a great merging point of art and science together. And the science part is definitely a foundation. I mean, if you look at anything in the kitchen at any one time, you could think about academics in science that says, oh, these are vegetables, we need a botanist here, and these are fish, we need an ichthyologist here, and we need, we look at how this stove works and how this heat is working, we need a physicist here. And so you could see all the various sciences all operating at the same time. And each one sort of gives you a clue or an answer to how to cook better. So it's certainly the foundational piece to it. And then you lay the art piece on top of that. So it's a great merger of the two of them. So really I think to be in cooking, as people have said, that, boy, science must be a great foundation for this. I said, absolutely, because you're putting two things together, expecting a third thing to happen, which is pretty much how scientific experiments go. I have A and B, and I'm going to look for C. So a typical day for me would be very typical. Get up, have a cup of coffee. Always have a cup of coffee first. And then really kind of break things down into what needs to be done, because there are the disciplines that you have to, it's not all just fun and games, that these things have to happen at a certain time. And you want to get those done as efficiently as possible. That's the discipline part. And then, so it's always sort of having an eye on the present, maybe a little eye on the past, what you weren't happy with, which doesn't work so well. So it's, I wasn't happy with that yesterday. What can we do so I can be happy with it today? And then an eye on the future. What would you like to be working on now? Some idea gets sort of started that we can look for tomorrow. So then we move through the day, that lunch is ready when lunch needs to be ready, and we work through that shift, and then we sort of clean up and get ready for dinner, and then we do the dinner shift after that. And then we look forward to that cup of coffee the next morning and just sort of start over. But it's kind of right in between there. A lot of it is sort of, what's the new idea, what's the old idea, what ideas are we working on in between, and always with a sense of improvement. I think that's what makes it, that makes a good day, when we feel like we've done it better than we did yesterday. Preparing for any career, it's always good to look at what are the foundational things that you'd like to get in place first, or like I always say, you don't want to have to go back and learn this later. So you want those foundational pieces. And there should be no underestimation of the power to be able to read and write and do some mathematics. Having a good background in science is important, and also in literature and history. Reading is very important, writing is very important, and arithmetic is very important. To think that you can get away with it, I can skip that part, is not a good idea. The last 25 years, I've been learning something every day, so you're never done. You're always trying to learn one more thing. Skills to be successful as a chef. I think, there's no question about it that it is an athletic, it's an athletic position, so having a sense of speed is sort of important. But you need a good sense of discipline, in that you can size up the things that need to be done and put them in the right order and get them done quickly. At some point, if you're going to lead the team, you have to have a sense of leadership and a sense of management. You have to be able to communicate well. Communication skills are important. If you have a sense of imagination, or you're creative, which I think everyone is, they just sometimes have to unlock it. So I think all those things go well together, and to balance them equally. I think when we hire young people, I look for that spark of passion, that passionate thing that tells me that they really want to do it more than anything, which is so key, because there are going to be obstacles along the way, and they'll overcome those obstacles because they have that sense of fire about them. And I look for that they take pride and care in what they're doing, that they know that their work, what they do, is a reflection about themselves, and if they value themselves, they're going to do a better job. And so the rest of it we can show them and explain to them, and a good sense of discipline, that they can focus on things is important, that they're not ricocheting around all the time, that they show up to work on time. Those are key things too. But I think that sense of passion and care and pride are the most important things that you look for. The rest, and they'll do well in anything that they attempt if they have those things. Science education is very important, because the entire world is made up of atoms, and they operate a certain way by certain rules and laws and so forth. And I think that's fundamental to everything, to have that sort of understanding. So I think it's a good one to get when you're young, particularly, to have that sense of physics and chemistry and biology in the world. It simplifies things a little bit, and it makes you more creative, because it's not a lot of voodoo and witchcraft out there. The reasons why things happen. I think it can make you actually more artistic, I think. There's several paths to becoming a chef. So there are right now currently plenty of cooking schools that you can go in 2-year and 4-year programs to show you a number of the skills, and you could acquire those very quickly. But I've always said you can do the university route too and get a BS or a BA, get the kind of a college education, and once you learn to read for information and write well and do some mathematics, then you can go out and get all the books that are out there in the field and do the same type of education yourself. And then mainly, if you can find a good place to work, one that I might sort of call more of a teaching educational kitchen, where people go and are taught all the tricks of the trade and so forth. But I think if you have a well-prepared mind, you see most of the answers in front of you, just learning some of the things that separate a home kitchen from a professional kitchen. But you can learn those in the field as well. Food is it's it impacts everyone's lives at all sorts of different levels, and it's not just about hotels or restaurants, but it could be food companies. There's lots of opportunities everywhere. So it's a very rich area. It goes all the way from the smallest restaurant to the biggest food company to even as nutritionally at the hospital sides or food production side or manufacturing side. I guess my advice for young people would be never underestimate yourself, that just find something that really sets you on fire and go out and do it and enjoy life as much as you can, even with all the frustration and the obstacles. But don't underestimate things. You can do whatever you want. For me as a chef, if you asked me when I was younger, I said, I don't know if I could ever do that. And then one day I just thought, well, let's give it a try and see. And then you find it just leads you on to other more exciting things.